Hi, I'm Mary Brotherton, and today I'm going to read a little bit from my mother's journal. She was probably in her 50s or early 60s when she started this, and the images you see are photos I took that I call Adventures of the Hat. And they are just photos that I took when I took my mother for drives around her hometown. There she is. That's my mother Merle, Granny Merle, we called her. And I'm going to read from her journal because I think you might enjoy it. Let me go back many years, 1927 to be exact. Of course, I do not have lots to tell you until 2 or 3 years later. I remember going to a funeral and a tall man holding me up to see the body inside of the homemade casket. I once told my mom that I was wearing a pink hat and coat. She could not believe that I remembered, as I was only 2 years old. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, there were no funeral homes to take care of the deceased family members. Neighbors and family men gathered and made a pine box, and at the same time, ladies were inside the home making a white satin lining and patting it to have the deceased member laid to rest. I began school when I was quite young, as we lived close to Cane Branch. They had grades 1 through 7 in 2 rooms. There were 2 teachers. The teachers encouraged Mama to let me come and sit in. I learned enough that when I really started, I made first and second grade in 1 year. Mama would lend out our kitchen to the county home demonstration lady to show the teachers and others how to make different things. We moved from that house when I was about 7, and until now, I wonder if anyone found my birthstone ring. Mama had traded octagon soap coupons for the ring. My mother's she was a wonderful woman. She was a great speaker, great writer, I think, but her punctuation leaves it for me because I'm reading this for the first time. I had lost it in the sandy yard, and we looked, but no one found it. It was to no avail. We lived in the house at the end of this road for several years, and from there we had many experiences, like our first wind-up Victrola. You had to wind it up, set the needle down onto the record. We didn't have many records to play. One was the Carter Family. Don't remember the other artists, but one song was In the Jailhouse Now. We would get into Daddy's log truck and go to town. Mama, Connie, and I stopped up street while Daddy went to pay off the crew. We did what people now call shopping. We walked and looked in stores. Mama eventually found out we could go into the movie and sit down. The movie house was not air conditioned, but it was a place to sit on a Saturday afternoon. We warmed by fireplaces, heaters, and stoves filled with firewood. Nothing smells as good as biscuits or cornbread baked in an oven heated with wood. Our water came from a hand pump, and on wash days, scrub day, canning days, butchering days, we used lots of water. I always felt I pumped most of the water, yet I guess I didn't. Wood was cut with a cross-cut saw. Many times, Mama, Connie, and I hitched a mule to a wagon and went for wood for our house and for Mama's and Papa's house, and sometime Granddaddy Crosby's. Well, I see that I have recycled these pictures, so I'm going to stop for a second here, folks, and I'm going to see if I can't get you some more images to look at because I think it's kind of boring to watch the same images over and over again. And I've got lots and lots and lots. So let's just pull up the one that says PRD and see where it takes us. It's going to go to some other image. Where is my slideshow? Here we go. Start slideshow. And you should be able to see something new. There's my whole big family, most of it anyway. The images are a little fuzzy, and I apologize for that. They aren't unless they're in the slideshow. Anyway, back to my mother's journal. Sometimes we get wood for Granddaddy Crosby. While Mama and Connie pulled the crosscut saw, I picked up lighter knots as they were pine knots from trees that were turned into light wood, meaning easier to light for fire and to begin a fire. My mother may not have known this, or maybe just didn't know it at the time, but lighter knots and light wood are filled with kerosene, natural kerosene. We had to play when everything had been done. Believe me, there never was enough playtime. Homework was done by a kerosene lamp, and those lights were bright only about 18 inches away from the lamp. Now, that was another one. Wash the lamp chimney very carefully every day. Trim the wicks about 2 times a week. There were many chores or work to be done. Feed the chickens, gather chicken eggs, pick the vegetables, shell the peas and beans. We were hard up for entertainment. Can you believe we got excited over traveling medicine shows? They had actors, clowns, skimpily dressed girls that performed on a small stage. Then the shouter or barker came out and talked about elixir. Best thing for everything that was wrong with anyone, everyone. Or political speaking could be, and it's interesting, she's got a dollar bill for the S in speaking. Counted as an interesting outing. They were called stump meetings, and she made another dollar sign with the S in stump. We didn't have radios or TVs, so meetings were set up, and sometimes food was served. One time, when it was close to going home, Mama walked up behind a man, put her arms around him, and said, "Steve," again with the dollar sign in the S, "are you ready to go?" The man said, "I'm not Steve, but we can go." Mama was really embarrassed. Interesting, she didn't put the dollar sign through Steve in the second guy. Entertainment. We had butterbean shelling, ice cream churning, peanut boiling, cane grinding, cake cuttings. They were not weekly things, just once in a while. All of our clothes, I mean all, were made on a pedal sewing machine. Many times, Mama could take things and remake them. They would look new by adding different color buttons or trim. When I'd finished the 5th grade, I traveled on a school bus to Hendersonville. From our house, the route was only about 4.5 miles. By the time we got to the school, the mileage had increased to nearly 30. We went in and out of places to pick up students. But my first day at school, my class of about 6 increased to 20 or more. Yet only 13 of that same group graduated 6 years later. I always enjoyed school. When there were books in the library and teachers to introduce us to new things, Mrs. Maybelle Kinsey was the first English and literature teacher. She put up with no lazy people when it came to speaking correctly. She did not hesitate to correct you in front of the complete class. There was one girl who never was able to get her homework or classwork, and Mrs. Kinsey would have her sit with me so that I could help her. One day, that girl got a very good grade. and Mrs. Kinsey called her name and said, "Who helped you?" I raised my hand and announced proudly, "I hope her." Well, I guess I was told hope was to wish or anticipate. I should have said, "I helped her." I learned, but I suppose it was used like that before around me. I always enjoyed math and spelling. Colleton County had a B or fair day. The smartest or high grade students went into county seat, Waldoboro, on Hampton Street and took tests. I did wonderful and was in math. I came in second in spelling. The word Mediterranean whooped me. Bicycle was a word that was hard. Guess what? It was not a word for spelling. The words came out of a box one at a time. In the sixth grade, Mrs. Louise Marvin was the teacher. And for each girl, she asked for each girl to bring 25 cents, and we would make our mothers a Mother's Day present. With the 25 cents, she bought each of us 1 yard of homespun and embroidery floss. We cut the fabric into squares for napkins, and with carbon copy paper, we traced a design to embroider. I chose a cup and saucer. We were to do the work in our own spare time. Guess what? No one completed the project. I came home with my square that was stamped and completed them. After I married, my mama gave them to me. Those poor neglected squares followed me wherever I went. There was no hot lunch at school. Most of a year, we packed lunches. Mama always said, Mama always saw to it that her daughters had a good lunch. At school, I don't understand the word, girlfriends sat in a circle on the green and divided lunches. Can you imagine how much of a sandwich you get when 6 or 7 girls get a piece of it? We had a variety. Seldom did 2 of us have the same lunch. Well, I'm going to stop there because she starts on another subject here. Thank you for listening. I think I'm going to do a slideshow and tell you about what the pictures are next. Thank you so much. Don't know where I am, but I'll figure it out. I'm over here somewhere. Gotta be talking to myself, or maybe I'm not talking to myself. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I have to exit the slideshow and have to exit that slideshow. And here I am saying so long. I will see you later.